Hey, this is Ryan from WebEminence.com, and in this video I'm talking about tracking phone calls from your Google AdWords campaign. So it's literally figuring out how many phone calls are resulting from your AdWords advertising. So this is a form of conversion tracking. There's a few types of conversion tracking in AdWords. You can track website actions. For example, you might track people clicking on key pages of your website. You might track visitors who are filling out a form on your website. Any action that's valuable on your website is something you might want to track. And in this video I'm talking about phone call tracking, which is obviously a valuable action from your visitors. And for many businesses that's the most important thing. And a lot of businesses don't track phone calls coming through AdWords because they don't know how, and they don't really realize how simple it is. So I'm going to show you how simple it is in just a minute on my screen. I want to explain first the two types of call tracking in AdWords. So the first type is calls from ads, and this usually happens on a smartphone when people do a search on a smartphone and the ads actually show a button that they can click on the ad to call you directly. So an advertiser in this case would be charged for a click, but instead of a visit to their website, they'd be getting a phone call. So that's a call from an ad. That's called calls from ads in Google AdWords conversion tracking. The other type of phone call tracking is calls from the website. So this would be when someone clicks on your ad, lands on your website, and then sees the phone number, sees your phone number on your website, and then they pick up their phone and manually dial your phone number. So this is inherently more difficult to track because it's not happening on the screen, it's happening manually on a phone. So the only way to track this is through a forwarding number. So I'm going to show you a really easy way to set up phone call tracking in Google AdWords. It just takes a few minutes. I'm going to show you that on the screen. I'm also going to show you a pretty cool tool for those of you who get maybe a higher volume of phone calls, maybe from different sources like print materials, radio advertising, whatever you might be doing. I'm going to show you a third-party tool to kind of take your phone tracking to the next level. So let's go ahead over to the screen. I'll show you a few things. So I'm here in a Google AdWords account. I'm in the conversion action section or page. The way you get here is by clicking on tools and then clicking on conversions. You can see I already have some conversions set up. We're going to show you how to set up new phone call conversions. So you'd click this red button here that says conversion on it. And they show you the different types of conversions, but we're going to focus on phone calls. So you click the blue select button, and then they're asking you what type of phone call conversion you'd like to set up. The first type is calls from ads, typically on a smartphone. We're not going to cover that in this video because it's pretty straightforward. You just select that option and then follow their instructions to get it set up. But I'm going to show you the calls to a phone number on your website. So you select that option and click continue. And they're going to give the conversion action a name. So I would usually call this calls from website. I'm going to just put number 2 since I already have one. You can fill out these options here, like what call length would count as a conversion, and do you want to include them in your conversion count, and then click save and continue. Oh, I need to select a conversion value. I'm not going to assign a value to these phone calls, and then click save and continue. And then the next step is installing the conversion tracking tag on your website. So there's a method here that's a little bit complicated. If you select this option where it says don't enter number, edit your website code manually, this requires you to do a few different changes on your website. There's a new simpler option here where you can just enter your phone number exactly as it appears on your website, and it does have to be exact. So if you use parentheses for the area code like this, you're going to want to type it exactly as it appears on your website. Make sure wherever your phone number appears on your website, it always is in the same format. Because what this tag is going to do when we click create here is we're going to add this script to the header section between the head tags of your website on every page, and it's going to swap out your phone number for a Google tracking phone number that's going to count conversions every time someone calls that number. So you can send the script to your webmaster for them to add it to the head tags of your website. You can email instructions with this button. If you have a WordPress site, you can use a plugin like a Google Tag Manager to add this script to the header section or between the head tags of your website. So once that's done, the last thing you need to do is configure your call extensions to make sure that phone number is active as a call extension in the campaign or any campaign you want to track with this phone number. So if we click done, they usually remind you to go to call extensions to set that up. So they took me to call extensions, and I already have the phone numbers, call extensions set up, but you just need to make sure that you create an extension for the campaigns you want to track using the phone number that's going to be tracked on your website that we just set up in the last step. If you don't understand how to do that or need more instructions, you can click their link here to learn more about call extensions. So once you're all done setting that up, you'll be able to go back to Tools and Conversions, and you'll see the new conversion action you set up. Here's mine, calls from website number 2. It's unverified because I have not added the code or the conversion tag to my website yet, but once it's verified, you'll start seeing no recent conversions or recording conversions, and then in the all conversions column, you'll start to see the count, which is how many phone calls you've received in the time period that you've selected. So that's an easy way to start tracking phone calls that are happening as a result of your Google AdWords advertising. And I did mention at the beginning of the video that I want to show you a pretty cool tool that's going to allow you to take your call tracking to the next level. For those of you who get a high volume of phone calls, maybe from different sources, it's really useful to know the number of phone calls coming from these different sources, rather than having to ask people who call, how they found you. It's not always a reliable way to get the information. I'm going to do a full review on calltrackingmetrics.com, as well as some other competitors that do similar things like CallRail. That's another popular call tracking software. But I wanted to give you a quick look at it just to give you an idea of what these higher level call tracking programs can do for you. So Call Tracking Metrics allows you to set up tracking numbers. So you might have one business phone number, but you can actually buy a number of phone numbers from them in your area code, and then you could place them on flyers, or like this person is using advertisements on YouTube. Here's a postcard, a Google AdWords phone number, holiday postcard, and then they're all routing to the same phone number. But because you're using different tracking numbers, you can track the phone calls to different sources. There's lots of cool things you can do with these tracking numbers that I'll show you when I do the full review. But if I click on numbers up here, you can see here's where you buy numbers. You set up the tracking numbers and the tracking sources. You can create voice menus for your callers. You can set up different receiving numbers. You don't have to use just one. There's scheduling, tracking codes, call scripts that can be generated for the people that are answering calls based on location or the source that the call is coming from. Form reactors allows you to place forms on your website that generate phone calls that you can either answer or deny. If I click on reporting, I can click on call reports, which gives me a visual look at calls for the recent time period, and it's broken down into sources. You see the red is Google AdWords and the blue is print. It gives me all kinds of stats like total calls, unique calls, ring time, talk time, duration, and I can score the calls based on different metrics and then measure conversions and even total revenue. Under the calls menu up here, you see there's a call log. Here's where the scoring is at. You can export all the calls. You can have block numbers. There's triggers, which I believe allow you to trigger certain actions based on words that might be used in a call. And there's also text features in Call Tracking Metrics, which allows you to create a list of textable phone numbers or prospects and bulk message them. So I'll cover that in my full review as well. So make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can watch the full review that I plan to do very soon on Call Tracking Metrics and other tracking platforms like CallRail. But this should just give you an idea of what they're capable of, so that you can probably then decide if using the Google AdWords built-in tracking is enough for you, or if using a more powerful call tracking platform like this might be beneficial for you. So feel free to ask questions if you have them, and like the video if you found it to be useful, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.